Look, this work is much more kind of playful and comic, I guess, than most of my other work. Most of my other painting that I show at Flinders Lane Gallery is more reflective and probably probably a bit sort of darker or more melancholy, I guess. Whereas this is kind of really having fun with the iconography of circus and vaudeville and performance and all that kind of thing. The basic inspiration, well, there's a whole lot of different things that inspired me, and one is that I used to work as a theatre set painter, and when we did that, there was always a model, a scale, 1:25 scale model of the theatre, and it had the curtains and the wings and the backdrops and the props and everything. And I used to love those little, and still do love those little model theatre sets. I've always loved the old theatres where they mechanised, had movements in the backdrops and the props and everything. I've always loved that kind of world. I've loved sort of vaudeville, circus, cabaret kind of imagery. I think that kind of imagery is incredibly iconic and powerful, and so I love inventing with all of that. And I guess the earlier works for Spiegelworld was sort of set in a two-dimensional space, but that space was a sort of a old world clunky theatre with mechanised parts and kind of mythological figures that could be actors or could be vaudeville performers. And then we extended that into in 2010 we took that, I took that picture and made it a two-dimensional piece, and then in this one we've actually made it three-dimensional and mechanised. And that's got a whole series of influences as well, because I've always loved, the automatons of the 17th century Europe, those beautiful mechanised pieces, and I love the pop-up paper books, the old pop-up paper books, and and dioramas have been, there's dioramas have been made for hundreds of years, and so there's a whole kind of world of this sort of miniature, carefully painted, often mechanised sort of artworks that I've really drawn on, and it's been really fabulous to work with that within that tradition. The characters themselves I take from all over the place, so I look at many references from circuses to musicians to vaudeville characters. And Commedia dell'arte is another important one for me. All of those, I look at all of those references, and I guess I find I never really, I don't really take directly from them, but those references will give me detail of costume and maybe sometimes the pose or the expression and that sort of thing. And I try and bring. I guess if it's a character like the strong man or a dancing girl or a Piero, I try and capture what's the essence of it for me, and so it draws on all of these different images I've come across, and I try and invent something that really captures the essence of that character, because those kinds of characters are so iconic, and they've been the Piero, the strong man, contortionists, they've been around for millennia, and they get reinvented every generation because they're such kind of archetypal and powerful psychological images. So so I try and capture the sort of what's essential in those figures for me.